Imagine paying $220 million to put your name on a stadium and then being told you have to cover it up. That's exactly what happened to Levi's.
I'm working at the World Cup at the at the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. And I had wore my Nikes today on accident. Bro, tell me why this is what the fuck they made me do. Bro.
FIFA is taking the phrase no free ads to a whole new level during the World Cup, except it might be backfiring.
They blocked off all the labels for the condiments.
British people are mad that there's a hydration break during this World Cup.
So FIFA is cracking down on brands trying to advertise around the World Cup without paying. But at the same time, even hydration breaks might turn into ad space. That sounds small, but you realize what's really happening? The World Cup isn't just a tournament anymore. It's a billion-dollar attention machine. And FIFA controls who gets seen.
Imagine paying $220 million to put your name on a stadium and then being told you have to cover it up. That's exactly what happened to Levi's. Their stadium in Santa Clara is hosting the 2026 World Cup, but FIFA has these strict, clean stadium rules. No corporate logos that aren't official World Cup sponsors. But this turned into one of the biggest advertising wins of the whole tournament. Because instead of fully hiding their logo, the cover kept its shape. No name, just the silhouette. Then Levi's leaned in. They made their censored logo their actual profile picture. Fans started posting it, pages started picking it up. A logo at the end of the day is just a shape. You don't read a great logo, you just know. So FIFA covering their name accidentally gave them millions of dollars in free advertising. This is Marketing with V. Follow for more.
FIFA is taking the phrase no free ads to a whole new level during the World Cup, except it might be backfiring. Let me explain. FIFA only allows official World Cup sponsors to receive brand exposure during matches, so they've covered up stadium names at Levi's, MetLife, SoFi, Gillette. They've even gone so far as to tape over the Gillette name on seatbacks in the stadium. Now, some of those brands who are cut out from the World Cup exposure are actually leaning into the cover-up. Levi's made this their new social media profile pic and turned it into a marketing moment. This is proof that the best brands don't always need their logo to be visible to get that recognition. Kudos to these brands for making lemonade out of lemons. Make sure you guys follow along for more sports business content like this.
Apparently the World Cup is so serious about not showing any brand names unless they pay a ton of money to be sponsored, they are literally covering up the logos of everything. Like even the Heinz ketchup and mustard that people use to put on their hot dogs. What's even crazier is that the games are usually taking place at the Levi's stadium, but because Levi's never paid them, they are covering up their logo as well. And because they were so annoyed to not get any of the free promo, they literally decided to change their profile picture on TikTok to their covered up logo, just so that people would maybe recognize they are the ones being censored by FIFA.
It's actually crazy. We're at the World Cup. Look at this. They blocked off all the labels for the condiments. No free sponsors at the World Cup. They even blocked off Levi's, the stadium sponsor.
So what I love about this is that this is actually a masterclass in branding. You guys can tell me which condiment is which by a single color, and you could probably tell me the logo that usually resides right there on the front of all of those condiments. Additionally, the logo on that stadium has been covered up, and you still know who's the sponsor of that stadium. Not to mention, they've also ran a masterclass around branding on their TikTok, you know, with that logo cover up. Well done, by the way. This is what we ask clients all the time. If you were to remove your logo from something, would people still know this is your brand, this is your company, even if you're a teeny tiny micro business? And if the answer is no, then you've got brand work to do. And if you're concentrating on the bottom of your funnel and just trying to sell, and you've put no time and attention at the top about your reputation and how people recognize it's you before it's even you, you should consider it.
I'm working at the World Cup at the at the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. And they had emailed us and saying that we couldn't wear like any like brand stuff, which I get. And I had wore my Nikes today on accident. Bro, tell me why this is what the fuck they made me do. Bro. They handed me tape and they were like, you need to cover that up. That's not Adidas. Bro, it's not that serious.
FIFA said no free clout for anybody. I was at Gillette Stadium recently and they covered up all of the signage with a bedsheet like it's being kidnapped. And this is all in preparation for the World Cup. FIFA is not giving anybody free advertising. So all of the corporate sponsorships, all of the corporate naming rights for these stadiums have to be covered up. So Gillette Stadium is going to be known as Boston Stadium, even though it's not really in Boston. But like another example, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta will be Atlanta Stadium. Here's another look at the stadium. And I know there's some people that are already up in arms about this, but like, are we surprised? It's FIFA. It's a very corrupt organization. Sports is a business. It's all about making money at the end of the day. But really, I just feel bad for the European tourists that are going to come to Boston Stadium thinking it's in the city, but in reality, it's 45 minutes away and closer to Rhode Island. So really, it should be Foxborough Stadium, but I don't make the rules.
The World Cup is getting ad breaks. Sorry, hydration breaks. For the first time in history, every World Cup match will stop for mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks, one in each half, which will coincidentally create 208 new advertising slots over the entire tournament. So now the matches are basically 4 quarters with ad breaks. You might recognize this as American football. Normally, hydration breaks are only required when it gets above a certain temperature. They've been used at the World Cup since 2014, but FIFA is now requiring them for all matches, even ones played indoors in air-conditioned stadiums. They're doing this for player safety, which is why FIFA announced this plan at a meeting with TV broadcasters, who are clearly the biggest players in the game. Not everyone is happy with this plan. Fans booed when they tested hydration breaks in a World Cup friendly in March in the fully indoors Mercedes-Benz Stadium. My bad, that is actually the Atlanta Stadium. Because during the World Cup, every stadium with a sponsor name that does not sponsor FIFA cannot be referred to by their stadium name. So these are now the Dallas Stadium, the New York, New Jersey Stadium, and the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. It really rolls off the tongue. FIFA argued with Atlanta for 18 months about the Mercedes logo on the roof before realizing the roof is made of inflated plastic and covering it would make it explode. So, in summary, if you're going to the World Cup on the McDonald's Ultimate Fan Experience to the Boston Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, just know the game will stop for hydration breaks, brought to you by Powerade, even if it's 21 degrees Celsius. Sorry, Celsius isn't a sponsor. Let's say 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Man, talking about all this blatant hypocrisy in advertising has gotten me thirsty.
It's an air-conditioned stadium. You do not need a hydration break.
It's like the Americanization of football.
It's an advertisement break. Yeah. It's no hydration break.
The hydration breaks are obviously for one purpose: big money for advertisements.
If it was a rest break, it was a welfare break, it was just you've got to go do what you've got to do, everyone's happy.
Football is about the flow, and there's no need to stop the flow.
It just feels like an extra addition to, or money grab.
This stadium, I don't think they were needed. But in a stadium where there's no overhead cover, there's no air con, and you're playing in 90 degrees plus, they're absolutely essential.
I get why people were booing. I was one of them booing.
So were you one of the fans booing those breaks?
Do you know,
I absolutely was.
$18 billion is expected to be generated for the organisation over the whole cycle of this tournament, with nearly $9 billion of that being brought in this year alone. That's largely because of the value of the broadcasting and commercial deals, which have increased with the tournament increasing to 48 teams. Revenue for FIFA is up more than 70% on the 2022 Qatar World Cup. So you'd think that all of that increased revenue from the broadcasters and the advertisers would be used to subsidise tickets for the fans, right? Right? Obviously, that has not happened. It is mostly in the US, after all. Prices are up more than 500% compared with Qatar, with tickets for bigger matches, especially the final, going for thousands. So really, capitalism wins once again.
Kevin Nguyen is a reporter for the San Francisco Standard, was attending a World Cup match at, I almost said Levi Stadium, San Francisco Stadium, Kevin noticed this in the press box dining area. How far is FIFA going with its brand restrictions? The condiments at Levi's Stadium press box have all been taped over. Like, I know that's Mike's Hot Honey right there. I should have gone with the orange or yellow pen here. Mike's Hot Honey. I know that's sriracha right there, but it's covered up. I know that's Heinz tomato ketchup. Did I just say tomato ketchup? It's ketchup. Here's relish. It's also Heinz. I recognize these brands. Here's the hot sauce I always use. Everything's covered up. Mustard as well. Mayonnaise. Like the level of pettiness to cover up these brands. And the reason why is because FIFA is protecting its partners and its sponsors. But does FIFA have a bunch of condiment sponsors? I don't know if they do or they don't, but to cover up everything, like, that's Tabasco sauce. I know that's Tabasco sauce.
FIFA made Jamal Musiala cover the logo on his headphones before Germany's World Cup match. And it's not just him. Brands are being covered up everywhere. The reason is FIFA's strict commercial rules. Inside World Cup stadiums, only official sponsors are allowed to be visible. Everything else must be covered. No brand can be displayed unless it pays millions to FIFA for sponsorship rights. Even stadium names are replaced with the name of the host city. Musiala had to cover the logo on his headphones. Otherwise, he would not have been allowed to use them. Even the Levi's Stadium logo was covered with a large white banner and will remain hidden throughout the tournament because Levi's is not an official FIFA sponsor. But here's the ironic part. Covering the logos may actually be drawing even more attention to them. The Beats headphones have arguably received more exposure because the logo was hidden than they would have if it had remained visible. Even products such as ketchup and mayonnaise have to be covered with tape. Some people have also questioned whether hydration breaks exist purely for the players' well-being or if they are primarily being used as additional opportunities to show advertisements.
Virgil van Dijk is a true football fan.
Hydration breaks are a bit interesting because I was obviously watching almost all the games up until today, and every time going to commercial is a bit not really that I like it, and I think for the neutral watchers on TV it's also not great. So if it's really hot, obviously it will be good to put them in, but I think you have to look at it in every game separately, in my opinion. But I think I've said enough already for that.
Thank you, Virgil. You have said enough, but I'm going to add a little bit more. I just want to talk about the blatant Americanization that's happening in football. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're in like the top 1% of people, it's great. You know, you're going to make so much money. The American structure of sport, the sport business, is so profitable for brands, for franchise owners, for people involved in governing bodies, for example, FIFA. But it creates a very synthetic and unauthentic experience for the fans and for the viewers. I mean, as a football fan, I know one of the biggest things that we like to complain about in American sports is the amount of commercials and sort of filler that breaks everything up and sort of ruins the flow of the games. And I think one massive part of this is these 3-minute water breaks in between each half. Now you're going to say 3-minute water break, yeah, it's not long, it's just one little thing that they've added, but that's how they've started. I've talked about this in another video, but that's how they start. They start slowly sliding it in little by little until you're like, okay, fine, now I'm used to this 3-minute water break, and then the next thing you know, there's going to be crypto advertisements or like, you know, blatant sports betting or gambling shoved right in your face. That's just the way it goes. That's the way it goes. They try to desensitize you to one level and then they step it up and then it keeps going. And again, very, very profitable model if you're in the top 1%. For the majority of us, including Virgil van Dijk, who seems to be a true football fan and understands the fan viewing experience, not so good. Not so good at all. I just want to talk about this and continue this conversation because I think we're seeing some big changes in football that, as I've mentioned, are going to benefit some small portion of people and probably gut the game from the inside and make it a less enjoyable experience for the rest of us. So I'm going to keep my eye on that and we're going to keep talking about it here. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you like and follow.
People are learning the hard way that FIFA don't play. So FIFA is allegedly suing Neon after he accidentally showed the World Cup match between Iran and New Zealand on his stream without their permission. Unless you are Speed and you have their permission and you sign a deal with them, you better not show that game if you stream. FIFA isn't even letting the stadiums be called by their name. So there's games being played at Gillette Stadium, But because FIFA doesn't want to give advertising to any companies that they don't have deals with, they're calling all the stadiums by the city that they're in. So Boston Stadium is Gillette Stadium, Arrowhead Stadium is Kansas City Stadium, and they've covered up all of like the signature and signage from Gillette. Now, I knew the NFL and the NBA were strict, but this is taking it to another level. FIFA knows that they make billions of dollars off the World Cup, and if you are not tied in with them, if you don't have a deal with them, then you cannot make no money. They're not giving no free game out here.
I love a loophole, and this is one of the most successful loopholes in marketing history, and it's happening right here, right now, at the World Cup. Ciao, I'm Carlo, and this is your Daily Marketing Fix. During the World Cup, FIFA has very, very strict rules on how to partner with them and how the logos of brands can appear or cannot appear in anything that is even mildly related to FIFA, including, of course, the World Cup. A lot of the stadiums in the US are branded, exactly like the Levi's Stadium in San Francisco. Well, FIFA ordered the logo to be removed. Of course, it can't be removed because it's physically attached to the structure, so it has to be covered. But the whole fact is that A, it's still perfectly recognizable, and B, Levi's built a very, very clever social media campaign. First of all, they changed also their own logo, their own brand logo on social to this new image. And second, of course, all the content is that, well, they're not gonna know, they're gonna know, because it's so distinctive. And this is exactly how to use one of the distinctive brand assets if your brand has any. Creativity usually is born from big difficulties or issues. And this was a spectacular example on how to turn a disadvantage into an amazing success story. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you have noticed. And if you enjoyed this video, you can follow me for more brand stories and marketing secrets. Ciao.
Most of you are aware by now, this is the FIFA Censorship World Cup. So I read this comment and they're saying that 64,000 seats at Gillette Stadium in Boston, or near Boston, as I'm getting attacked a lot, and they've had to cover up the word Gillette on the seats. And I thought to myself, surely not. Surely that's going too far. They've actually covered it up. On a normal day, you can just make out Gillette there. Some poor soul has had to cover up the word Gillette on 60-odd thousand seats. Game's gone. The game has gone. Look, FIFA making jobs for people. FIFA are making jobs. I really thought that Infantino would have let this one slide, given that it's Gillette and he probably uses their products on the top of his head every single day. No hate, but has any brand survived this ambush from FIFA? I need to know now. That's the new task. Has any brand survived the FIFA censorship?
I was FIFA and I had to cover up the brand logos at the World Cup. This is how I would do so in a tasteful way. I'm a marketer in tech. I was at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium the other day in Atlanta watching the World Cup. I saw this, thought it looked so sloppy. My stance on this is if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it well or don't do it at all. Number one, let's look at the seats. This on the left is the Gillette Stadium. See how they covered up the Gillette Stadium logo with this piece of tape? It looks sloppy. On the right is what they could have actually done, which is get seat cover-ups with the FIFA logo on it. This looks better, it looks cleaner, it doesn't look sloppy. Number two is the stadium logos outside of the stadium. On the left, you can see the Levi's Stadium. See how they just put a tarp over it? On the right is what they can actually do is put a nice panel with the FIFA logo over it. This one on the right has much more of a wow factor. Okay, the last is condiments. This one is by far the most controversial one. This one on the left is how the condiments were covered up. This looks absolutely ridiculous. You can definitely tell that it's still Heinz ketchup, sriracha. This one on the right is if they were to just get actual generic bottles and write the labels, ketchup, mustard, whatever it is that you need on the labels themselves. I had a comment from the original video that I made of this picture, which I think is amazing, and this is really how it should be. If you're thinking, why should they take the time to invest in all this? Why don't they just leave it alone? You're absolutely right, which is why I think they really shouldn't have done anything at all and taken a note from what the Super Bowl has historically done, which is leave the stadium name as is. And we didn't even think twice about it. Instead, we're here talking about this and laughing at the absurdity of it all.
FIFA found a way to extract an extra $2 billion a year from sponsors, and the idea behind this is so pretentious it's actually crazy. So every World Cup, companies pay millions upon millions of dollars per year to become a sponsor of FIFA. This gets them billions of extra impressions, which is worth a lot of money, and it's exactly why FIFA is so protective about it. In fact, their marketing value is so crazy that being able to give any of this marketing away for free would be them just handing out free money to these companies. So what they decided to do was go to every length possible to block off any brand that wasn't an official sponsor of FIFA. Even in the media rooms at some of these stadiums, they literally tape over all of the logos of all of these companies of condiments just to prevent these companies from getting free marketing value that was set up by the World Cup. They even blocked out the names of the stadium, like Levi's Stadium, which is now just called the San Francisco Stadium for the World Cup, and MetLife Stadium, which got blocked off completely and just became FIFA World Cup 2026. But this circles back to the question, what is the real marketing value of blocking off these logos on condiments? Well, it might be more than you think. A lot of the sponsors for FIFA are paying around $80 million to just be a sponsor, but they're only paying around $30 per 1,000 impressions, and these condiments were not getting that many impressions. In fact, these condiments right here were probably only worth $10 of total marketing value, but they blocked it off to protect an $80 million rule, which is exclusivity. If you pay to be a sponsor, you get shown in everything, but if you don't pay, you have to get blocked out from everything. And that's FIFA's rule. The irony though is that it's kind of backfiring because now people are making videos about Levi's Stadium and condiments like Heinz ketchup that never would have gotten this exposure if they didn't even try to block it out. So follow for more stories about money like this, or you might never see me again.
World Cup suite. Every single mustard, ketchup, mayonnaise, any of the condiment ads are blocked out with tape. You got to be freaking kidding me, FIFA. This is the pettiest nonsense I have ever seen. And I get you blocking out the stadium names, like Levi's Stadium is now called like San Francisco Stadium or something, or AT&T Stadium is the Dallas Stadium, Gillette Stadium is now the Boston Stadium. But at the same time, why the heck are you blocking out ketchup bottles? That doesn't make sense. And if you think this is just a one-off incident, maybe someone did this as a prank, no, this is the media room at Levi's Stadium, or San Francisco Stadium as the World Cup likes to call it. And again, everything blocked out. This is a message for FIFA if you see this video. Guys, it's not that deep. It's really, really not that deep. You can let the ketchup bottle from Heinz say Heinz on it. Nobody's going to go for the
So if you don't already know, FIFA is blocking all brands at the World Cup that aren't official sponsors. But FIFA ended up shooting themselves in the foot because these companies had a really tricky way of getting around this. For example, this is Levi's Stadium, which FIFA and the World Cup just rebranded to San Francisco Stadium. However, when they blocked out the logo, they didn't block out the entire thing, they just blocked out the text but kept the same shape. So it looked something like this, or even something like this. Levi's took advantage of this by rebranding their Instagram account by just having this as their new logo. People have now been talking a ton about this, and Levi's is now getting way more attention than they would have gotten if FIFA just decided to never block it off in the first place. This is also happening on an absolutely crazy level of blocking out brands. They literally went as far as making sure that all the condiments in their media room have the brands completely blocked out. Once again though, this is somewhat backfiring because while at first no one would really care about promoting Heinz or something like that, now these pictures are spreading and these brands are getting way more attention than they should have if FIFA just never bothered blocking these out in the first place. So what do you guys think? Is the World Cup and FIFA actually being smart, or is this a stupid strategy?
Hydration breaks, do you love them? Do you hate them? I'm pretty sure you hate them because everybody is getting frustrated on the timeline at the moment with the hydration breaks at this World Cup. Or we should just call them the advertisement breaks because realistically, they are not used for hydration purposes. I'm not actually fundamentally against hydration breaks. If it is too hot and players need that hydration break in the middle of each half to be able to refuel and re-energize and get some fluids into their body, absolutely 100% I'm for it. You're not seriously going to be telling me that the Netherlands-Japan game yesterday needed a hydration break because it was quite chilly in the stadium according to the commentators because it is air conditioned. They are in a rooftop closed air conditioned stadium. That's where I begin to have a problem with it because it's not a hydration break. It's not for player welfare. It's for advertisers. It's for commercials. And that's the only reason that they have brought this in the World Cup, because during the Mexico versus South Africa game, the referee had to keep the players waiting during the cooling break because Fox was still on a commercial break. I think everyone in football was kind of united on this. Virgil van Dijk spoke out against it yesterday saying, I've been watching almost every game. I don't really like the hydration breaks. And for the people watching on television, it's also not great. If it's really hot, then obviously you need need it, but you need to look at it game by game. But I think I've said enough already. Virgil van Dijk is absolutely spot on with his analysis there. Jurgen Klopp as well came out and talked about it, saying football's being held hostage by executives in air-conditioned offices. These so-called cooling breaks were sold to us as a shield for players' well-being. It's nothing more than a gilded cage built for sponsors. Unfortunately, it's something that we're going to have to get used to. It's a shame because obviously it kills the momentum of certain teams when maybe they're on top in a game, and then it gives a team a minute or so to be able to recover, come back out, and the momentum of that team on top has now been killed. It ruins the spectacle. It's not necessary. It's just for commercials. And realistically, the only time we should be having hydration breaks is when it exceeds a certain unsafe threshold. Whatever that threshold is, I'm not actually sure. But I'm sure that there is already a threshold already in place because I've seen it used like that before. That's how hydration breaks should be used. And there should be no advertisements. But unfortunately, this World Cup, it's all about money. And that is exactly what this hydration break is for.
British people are mad that there's a hydration break during this World Cup. No lie, they're booing during the hydration break.
Get in, lads. I've never been more proud of us. Not only at the Croatia game did we boo every celebrity they put on the screen at the stadium. Not only did we chant Keir Starmer's a wanker after FIFA told us specifically not to chant anything political, but we also booed the hydration break and rattled this random American lady. I've never been more proud to be an Englishman in my life.
No wonder there's so many people passing away due to heat-related issues in the UK.
What? That is not an issue here. There are not people like fucking collapsing in the streets due to the fact that they're refusing to drink. What?
Like, you're against AC, you're against hydration.
Right, look, I would love for you to find me an English person who is against hydration. It's just not true.
Then another person was like, this is the Americanization of football because of all the advertisements.
Yeah, the hydration break is literally there just for advertisements in the US. Like, look at the hydration break. It's sponsored by an energy drink. The hydration break in itself is an ad.
The US was like, and by the way, we want more advertisement money, so we're doing hydration breaks.
Yes, I can believe that the companies involved in the American coverage of the World Cup wanted hydration breaks so they could cram more ads in there. That is very believable to me, but do you know what? At the end of the day, I respect it. I respect how locked in Americans are when it comes to making money. I love money personally. I love buying beers.
No, they did hydration breaks in Brazil too in 2014.
Yeah, that's true, but do you want to know how many games that they had a hydration break in the 2014 World Cup? One game! Yeah, one game in Brazil had a hydration break because it was so hot. They were like, okay, we're actually going to need to have a few drinks here. At first, FIFA were like, no, we're not doing hydration breaks. Like, you're just making facts up. First of all, you're saying that there's people just dying in the streets in England because they don't want to drink water. And now you're just making up the fact that there's hydration breaks in Brazil 2014. There was one. You cannot convince me hydration breaks in the World Cup this year are not there solely so they can cram more adverts in there.
Soccer has always been a game of two halves, but at this summer's World Cup, it's a game of 4 quarters. For the first time, the World Cup has introduced mandatory hydration breaks. Those are 3-minute pauses midway through each half. Officially, they're designed to give players a chance to cool off in the hot North American summer, but in reality, FIFA has just found a way to jam in 2 extra advertising breaks. And already the verdict is in. Fans and coaches absolutely hate them.
It changes the character of each half quite significantly because it gives you the chance to regroup, gives you the chance to change and to reset.
Not only do they interrupt the flow of matches, they're also having a clear impact on the momentum of the game. Through the first 5 days of this World Cup, more than a quarter of goals have been scored right after a break. Cooling breaks were first introduced at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, but only for matches that reached extreme temperatures. Now, however, they're in every single game, even though 5 of the 16 venues are covered or have retractable roofs. The real appeal for organizers is that they allow more time for commercials within the 45-minute halves. 3 minutes times 2 times 104 matches equals 10.5 hours of extra ad time over the course of the entire World Cup. Industry experts say that a 30-second spot runs about $200,000, and if the US is playing, that goes to $750K. So whether fans like them or not, these World Cup hydration breaks are here to stay.
There's been one game in this World Cup so far, and FIFA's already pissing me off. I know a few months ago they announced that there was going to be water breaks in each half. You know, it's been done before, but it was also announced that they'd be running ads during these 3 5-minute breaks and whatnot. So I know it's important to get the players hydrated, and especially a lot of these European players that aren't used to the North American heat, which is fine if it's a case-by-case, game-by-game basis, but having it for, all the hundreds of games, every single game, even in Canada, say it's going to be cold, or in California, New York, it'll be a little cooler. They're going to have the water breaks regardless. And yes, for player safety, which is good, but it's mainly just to run ads, and it's already annoying. I thought they would at least do what they've done before in the past, where they would have, so the players on the water break, they'd have the commentators talking about tactics or whatnot. But nope. Why am I seeing Messi in his Lowe's jersey in an ad during, that water break? So I think that's already super annoying, and it just kind of shows how this World Cup is already, off on the wrong foot. And capitalism, it's all for money, which whatever, kind of just takes away the love of the game a little bit. Obviously, I'm still going to watch, but it's just very annoying. And, that they had to Americanize the World Cup and just putting commercial breaks into everything. And I worry that this is going to be something that's going to continue going forward in, the MLS and other leagues around the world, and then into next year World Cup and other tournaments. So hopefully that doesn't continue. But yeah, I'm very annoyed with it already, and it just doesn't feel like the world's game right now. It just feels super money hungry, and I'm not a fan.
The World Cup tried so hard to hide brands that didn't pay to sponsor, and somehow ended up making them even more famous. During the event, organizers covered logos from non-sponsor brands everywhere. One of the biggest examples was Levi's Stadium. Even though matches were held there, the Levi's name and logo were covered up. Even food stations weren't spared. Heinz ketchup and mustard bottles had their labels hidden too. The idea was simple. If you didn't pay sponsorship money, you shouldn't get free exposure. But people immediately noticed. Instead of ignoring those brands, everyone started talking about them. Then Levi's made the perfect move. They changed their TikTok profile to a covered-up logo and joked with definitely not Levi's style content. Heinz joined in, too. Their labels disappeared, but people still recognized the bottles instantly. And that's when the strategy backfired. The logos were hidden, but the brands became even more visible. Turns out, when a brand is strong enough, you don't even need to show the logo. What do you think, smart sponsorship protection or free marketing gone wrong?
This is just an absolute masterclass in marketing. FIFA comes out. I want you all to understand that there is a FIFA rule that says unless you are an official FIFA sponsor, you can't have your logo anywhere in the stadium. So Levi's is like, you know what? Like, we're going to have all these matches where we're going to be prominently displayed, but we know we're going to have to cover it up. So they go ahead and instead of just like draping over a sheet or something, they actually drape the sheet in the Levi's jeans shape. And then they change momentarily their logo to just the white sheet that they're putting over all of their logos in the stadium. And they go ahead and come up with just an awesome marketing campaign. I love it when people are thinking outside of the box right here, Anthony, into something that could have just been, man, we just lost an opportunity. All right, well, just cover it up and let's move on. Instead, they have turned this into something where people are talking about Levi's of all things. And whoever the marketing person is, would love to meet them, because I would love to hear the story about how that came along right there.
That's when every little pause matters now. A break in the game isn't just a break. It's screen time. And screen time is money. So when FIFA blocks one brand but opens the door for another, that's not random. That's the business of the World Cup.